So this BSJ is going to be my introduction to Dota chess in terms of the mechanics as well as hotkeys to make it for the newer player or even people who are just new to Dota who have been playing a little bit who don't have their hotkey set up or just their knowledge of the mechanics optimized. So first and foremost, for hotkeys, one of the biggest things you want to do is go to advanced setting, which is in the top left. You go to settings, go to advanced hotkeys, and enable quick cast and autocast. So once you do that, you'll be given this option, which you then click unit specific hotkeys, and then you go to quick cast and make it so all of your hotkeys are on quick cast. This makes it so that when you move a unit, you don't have to push Q, then click the unit. You can just push Q while your mouse is over the unit. On top of that, in order to check your experience on your courier, you need to push Alt. So another hotkey that you should set up is going to hotkeys, advanced hotkeys, and Alt modifier. So your choice to check the courier your courier's level is to push Alt. So one thing you can do if you don't like using the Alt hotkey is changing Alt to something else in order to check the experience on your courier. So secondly, our next hotkey I can't show you unless I go into an actual public lobby is if you want to go between boards, you have to push Tab. If you're the leader of the lobby, do not shuffle, because what the game does is it tabs between boards based on who joined the lobby in what order. So if you don't shuffle, the tab will take you in a nice circle around the boards. But if somebody shuffles the order up, it makes it so that the tab is kind of vomit-inducing, taking you all over the place with the boards. So when it comes to making a lobby, if you want to check what I'm doing now to test this for yourself, you simply go to Auto Chess, create custom lobby. Just type in a password, otherwise a bunch of people from pubs will join you automatically. And then you create the lobby and you just go by yourself. So we'll quickly demonstrate the quick cast hotkeys as well as a couple things we already talked about. And then we'll talk about just some basic mechanics for people who have never played Dota to make sure you understand what you're looking at. So an example of quickcast that I have on, as I talked about what it does, is if I don't have quickcast on, I have to push Q and then click this bounty hunter. But with quickcast on, I just have my mouse over the bounty hunter, Q, move it on. And that just makes all of your actions take half as many buttons. And when it's later on in the game, you have very limited time to make your decisions. And sometimes you have as many as like 100 actions per turn. So having them take half as long is a pretty big deal. Another big deal about this game is that there's 3 different types of damage. There's physical, there's magical, and there's pure damage. So most important to understand is that physical is done by all attacks, except for DK's ultimate makes it so his damage over time is magical. Other than that and Maelstrom, every single damage instance from attacks is physical. Physical is reduced by a unit's armor. So what you can look at to understand how tanky units are to auto attacks is by looking at their armor. It gives them 999 armor between rounds to make them invulnerable, but it's whatever that number is plus any items you have on the hero. So it also tells you what their physical damage resistance is on top of what the exact value of the armor is. So in general, units with high armor are better at frontlining. So for instance, Tinker actually has 10 armor. So he's a unit that even though he's ranged and in actual Dota is kind of like a squishy hero, is actually considered like a frontline tank because of the fact that he has 10 armor, as well as the fact that I'll bring up another point on that later. But so he has 5 armor, which is 22% physical resistance, and he has 6 armor, which is 26% physical resistance. So mostly you just have to know the more armor, the more physical damage resistance you have. It's diminishing returns. It's 5% per level or per armor, but the way it works is that 5% is the remaining percent of however much you don't have yet. So what I mean is the first armor gives you 5% out of 100. The second point of armor gives you 5% out of the 95% left. And then the 5% after that gives it out of like the 90.2% left. So that's why 5 armor makes about 22% physical damage resistance. So for example, if you want to do more physical damage, the undead bonus is 4 armor, minus 4 armor. So if most units in the game have 5 armor, so when you lose 4 armor, you go from 5 armor to 1. And so that amp is actually not the difference between your physical resistance, it's the percentage of the difference between 22%, it goes to 5, right? So what you're actually doing is if you do 100 damage per attack, it goes from 78 damage to 95. So you're amping it by 17 out of 78. So that is actually 21%. So when you're understanding the difference between undead bonus and beast bonus, for instance, beast bonus being 10%, you would know that undead bonus actually gives you almost twice the damage as it would if you had the beast bonus. So the way armor works is that it's diminishing returns. So what that also means is that minus armor loses its effect the more armor they get. So what that means is undead bonus is worse against warriors than it is, because warriors get bonus armor, than it is against any other unit in the game. So that's really important to understand. Undead bonus goes from about 21% to say about 16 or 17% bonus against warriors. So that's just something to consider when you're learning the game. So that's physical damage. Then you have magical damage. Most units in the game don't have a passive, they have an actual ability. So the way the ability gets triggered is by the unit taking damage or dealing damage. The more damage it deals and the more damage it takes depends on how, or determines how much mana it gives, but there's like a maximum per attack and maximum per damage instance. So if you have like a Tidehunter that you want to ravage in the front lines, it's okay to put armor on him to make him take damage slower if you're scared of him getting two-shot, because there's a maximum amount of mana he can get per time that he takes damage. But these abilities that go off that are magical, you can check what type of damage they are. Certain abilities in the game are magical, certain ones are physical, and certain ones are pure. Magic damage is only reduced by magical damage resistance, which is from the Naga synergy, as well as the cloak item. And some heroes in the game, such as Anti-Mage and Terrorblade, actually have built-in magic resistance. So, for instance, with the Naga synergy, if you want to understand the game a bit better, if you get 30% magic resistance from the Naga synergy against magic damage, you go from taking 100 damage to 70, assuming the nuke is 100. So if you have 70 damage instead of 100, you're actually gaining 30 out of 70% resistance against magic. So, or 40% more health is what I'm saying. You get 30% resistance, which gives you 40% more health. So the Naga bonus is actually 40% more health against magic damage. So if you're dealing with mages, the Naga bonus gives every unit you have 40% effective more health against the mages. On top of that, let's talk about basics that we want to look at. So you said alt, you can check the experience of the courier, which you see down here. Opening up the scoreboard is spacebar. That's a really important hotkey. And if you want to check out my fundamentals video as well as my positioning video in my chat, all you have to do is type ! positioning or ! fundamentals. If you have questions about those are more basic videos about making sure things that you can look out for as a new player. But these are just some mechanics that we want to make sure you understand. So Blightstones, multiple Blightstones do not stack. Multiple Voidstones do not stack. Multiple Crowns do not stack. Basically, if something places a debuff on an opponent, it does not stack, such as Kaya's or Kaya's or Blightstones. But if something buffs your unit, such as Morbid Mask, it does stack. The one thing is that, for whatever reason in the coding, Voidstones and Crowns and stuff, they don't stack together. But like a Perseverance and a Voidstone will stack, because they're two separate items. But two of the same item will not stack. So since a unit actually has maximum mana they can also get from an attack, the Voidstone increases that maximum mana. But you can't have two Voidstones on the same hero to give them even more mana per attack. Let me think. The last type of damage is pure damage. And just remember that if you want to check what type of damage a unit does, just mouse over their ability, and it tells you damage type right underneath the ability. Pure damage. Pure damage is done by demons. It is done by Enigma. It is done by Timbersaw. And I believe that's it. There might be one other. And so the way pure damage works is that whatever the number on the damage says is how much damage it does. So based on like if they have 100 armor, if the Enigma, if they have 100 armor and 100% magic resistance, Enigma's spell will still do exactly how much damage it says. That's the idea behind pure damage. So with that in mind, pure damage is really good against knights, because the way Knight Shield works is that it gives the unit that has the shield high magic resistance and high armor. So the way to counter knights is by pure damage. So something to consider if you have a knight lineup is it makes Anti-Mage a much better hero on knight lineups, because Anti-Mage negates the pure damage from demons. And the only other damage that's pure, that's reliable in the early game, is pretty much Timbersaw. So if you're considering the fact that the main way to counter knights in the early to mid game, because the shield itself gives them a lot of magic resistance and armor, being pure damage, then having an Anti-Mage in a knight lineup can be very useful. Same idea with warriors, that the fact that demons do pure damage and warriors have armor that does not negate the pure damage. So the only way to remove the demon pure damage is by having an Anti-Mage. Another thing to understand about evasion. Evasion is the same as magic resistance or armor. It stacks diminishingly. So what that means is the first 25% bonus from elves, or whatever it is by the time you read this or watch this video, gives you 25% evasion. But the next 25% gives you 25% of the remaining 75%. So what that means is the next 25% is 18.75% additional evasion, which is 43.75 additional evasion. And if you understand how we talked about the magic resistance, if you have 25% evasion, you're effectively taking, on average, 75 damage per attack rather than 100. So in terms of killing you, it takes 25 extra damage on top of the 75 that you previously had. Same idea, it increases your effective HP against attacks by 33% on elves. And it's the same thing. Every elf synergy bonus gives you a 33% more health against auto attacks. And as of now, auto attacks that miss do not give mana for the heroes that are trying to attack you. So elves are super good at obviously having that effective HP against attacks, as well as preventing mana. So it makes a hero like CM go up in value against elves, because she gives her team mana without them having to land attacks. All chances stack diminishingly. Human silence, anything like that stacks diminishingly, except for magic resistance buffs, such as the 6 mage bonus that just stacks additively, meaning that the 40 plus 40, you go to 180%. And that's about it for mechanics of this game. Yeah, some of those are a little bit more complicated, so if you feel like it's above your learning curve at the current moment, feel free to just come back to this video as you feel like you're ready to learn. Don't stuff yourself too much with knowledge, but it's important that you have the appropriate understanding of these mechanics if you actually want to truly exceed at the game as time goes on. It's very important. On top of this, mechanics of income that we have not talked about, that I probably should have talked about early on in the video. So what happens is every round you get 5 gold, regardless of what happens, and you get 1 bonus gold for winning. So the way interest works is that every 10 gold you have, you get an extra 1 gold at the end of the round. And it rounds down. So at 19 gold, if I end the round with 19 gold, I'm getting 1 gold. If I end the round with 10 gold, I'm getting 1 gold. But it rounds down to whatever the number in the tens digit column is. It maxes out at 5. So anything above 50, you don't get any gold extra. Like if I have 60, I'm still getting 5. And so that's really important in making a lot of decisions early game. So when you're watching streamers or watching anybody, make sure you're paying attention to the decisions they're making based on their interest, because getting interest is the only reliable way to get income. The other way to get bonus income is being on win streaks or loss streaks. And if you wonder if you're on a win streak or a loss streak, just mouse over the money sign up here and it'll tell you, see how I'm on a loss streak because I haven't been playing units. Every streak maxes out at 3. So if you wonder whether or not you should go for a win or a loss, and if it's worth investing in a win, or it's okay to not upgrade because you want to lose, just check this out to see how much bonus gold you're getting that round from the loss or the win. So that's definitely it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It'll be up on YouTube. And I'll see you guys around my stream if you guys have any questions about any of the stuff I talked about in the video.